All right. Hey guys, good evening. Thanks for watching the VOD. I'm running a few minutes late because my machine's acting funky. My machine is being weird. So, just working through that. So if the VOD gets cut off abruptly at some point, that's what's going on. Alright, but stream's going now. Music's playing in the background. Wonderful. My other programs are working. Ollie, you are first this time. What's up, Olo, Chinny? Yeah, I don't know. Like, I was on my way to being on time at 8 p.m. for the stream. And then my first, all of my browser windows kept locking up in weird ways. Slack started locking up. And then I thought it was because I had just zoned in the Night Harbor with lighting turned off and it was compiling shaders, so I thought maybe that was it. Checked, my CPU was at 100. Have I been looking at naughty websites? Not on this PC, that'd be weird. Yeah, so I don't know. But that's a fair point. I guess I've forgotten that viruses are even a thing. But I don't think that's it. Like, I don't ever go to any weird websites, really. So, yeah, I don't know. I think maybe it's a Unity thing. If I open Unity again and it locks up and I disappear, then you know. Keith, yeah, it's not, I mean, it wasn't planned to be a Friday stream, but Wednesday, what was going on Wednesday? Oh, Wednesday was May 1st, which is a holiday here. So Jasmine was off. We met with neighbors and stuff at the garden and had a barbecue. So we wound up being there probably past when the stream would have been starting. So if you don't pull, it's better until the build is done, probably an hour or 90 minutes, Holly said. Can I run the client? Would that be fine? I could just do that and play or something if the build's being poopy. Or is this immediately affected? Are we? Nope. Alright. Well then. I just pulled latest right before stream. I always, well, I don't always, but I try to. What's up, Sarinth? Where? No, Rev, sorry. Unity issues, try deleting OBJ library folders, opening the project again. Take a while to build a project. Okay, if I can do stuff in the editor, that's fine. That's what I was trying to do when I went into Night Harbor, was just I wanted to look at something with those scout spawns, because I thought we'd fix that, but I wanted to double check. So I was doing something interesting this morning. I did another ChatGPT test, Ollie, this morning. Basically I exported the NPC spawn and zone table, or zone spawn tables, and imported them into the GPT that I've been playing with, and then was trying to ask ChatGPT about specific NPCs and their like essentially their spawn locations, spawn frequency, and stuff like that. which is funny. It got super specific with me for a change when I was asking about Ashira warriors, and I was like, Ashira warriors, and it's like, can't find Ashira warriors, and I was like, what? Went back and forth because usually it's smarter than that. And I was like, what about Ashira warrior? And they're like, oh yeah, buddy, got those. Okay. And the funny thing was, when I said, what about Ashira warrior, it literally did like a dope kind of thing where it was like, after going back and forth, I was like, Ashira, I asked it, it was like Ashira warriors, and it's getting confused and couldn't find them. And it was like, what about all these other Ashira? I'm like, no, Ashira warriors, dude. And then it's like, what about this? I'm like, what about Ashira warrior? And it was like, oh, yeah, okay. And it answered all the previous questions. It was like, smacked itself in the forehead and went on. I was like, oh, man. Hey, Landon, what's up? Landon said, we're having a lot of success with Claude AI. The more recent model is better at problem solving than GPT-4. Interesting. GPT-4, fuck. Interesting. Let me open it up so I got it. Yeah, but it's been interesting since I'm talking about it, I guess, and it's been a while since I'd mentioned it to Nick and Ali, but been looking at it as, so what I've tried with it is to basically take our Confluence, our internal wiki, and you can download that or export it as a PDF, and then upload the PDF as a new GPT, and then ask it questions and have it be very good at being referential to that context, right? It makes sense. Setting up the GPT like that, which then makes it, that's kind of a little more interesting thing to me, because then it's, hey, could you bring up these references or summarize this or whatever, and it's super helpful that way. Landon said, yep, we have something like that too, an internal eco chatbot. Ollie, we're falling behind, dude. What's going on? Listen what eco's got. Helps us write quests that are consistent with or exactly. Well, it's really good for brainstorming, right? Like it's a good brainstorm partner. Because what about this? And sort of back and forth on some stuff, and it's doing it with the actual lore instead of just like some random other shit from the internet. Hey Buckholt, sorry about that. I missed you up there. I was so caught up in my nonsense. Somebody on YouTube, the YouTube comments are awesome. Somebody on YouTube had mentioned like it was something like, enjoyed the video, but you just spent an hour not doing any work, Sean. I was like, my response is like, have you watched this stream before? Are you the slightest bit aware of what I do and don't do? What I don't do is work. Then it said, actually, I was asking GPT to help me write a step for a quest, but all of its ideas, like 100 ideas, were pretty bad and generic. We still got to think. Yeah, absolutely. That's what I found. There's no, it's not, but it's good at taking what I've found it to be most useful for is the shit that most people use it for, which is like, hey, once you establish a format for something, then you can take chunks of data or notes or whatever and be like, hey, can you format this for me? It's decent. It's pretty decent at busy work, right? And even then there may be there may be some cleanup or whatever, but it's been decent at busy work. Nick said something earlier. Can we ask and make a list of how many spawns in each level range we have? It should be able to. The interesting thing with it is there are these weird moments where you catch it sampling. And you're like, you didn't do all the work, did you? And if you call it out, it's like, it'll be like, yeah, you're right. I kind of bullshitted on that one. Asking for a list of ideas based on lore, but then handcrafting quest seems good. Yeah, and I mean, it's honestly, you know, that's where it's been the most useful. It's like, here, just a list of shit, and then you can give it feedback like, what about this? Tweak it, darker, more East Tim, less this, but, and then it's just great for having brainstorming lists, and then it's business as usual, which when people, you know, get their ass in a snit about the use of AI, like, what, are you not doing, you know, actual work? Is this not all from your imagination? It's like, maybe you haven't seen game development in real life before, because there's all sorts of shit like this that we've always used. There's, what is it? Tabletop counter. I was talking to Hamad about this, right? Because I've actually got some PDFs. Got some PDFs that he had recommended years ago for things like character generators and counter generators and stuff like that. And it's, you know, it's like roll the dice, you look at your table, and then it gives you the info. And now there's websites that do it and all that type of stuff. Big program, took a while. It's just, I'm loading into Night Harbor. My machine's just been not happy with me today, Sounda. And there've been things like Chaos Gen and all sorts of stuff forever that people use to seed the ideas and then go from there. Hey, Goblin. John said, I'm currently working on an app to interface with GPT API to file localization tables for Salt. It's been doing a pretty good job so far. Maybe you'll be the one that I should pick on, or pick your brain on, or see if you've got the time at some point. I think integration of GPT into the tools is ultimately going to be helpful, because right now what I'm doing is just downloading Confluence, uploading to a GPT, and then using it to play around to see what sort of workflows we could actually kind of rely on using it, right? And idea generation using our actual lore, finding inconsistencies in lore. It's a very good search tool or summarization tool, you know, all of that stuff. So it would be nice to have that more cleanly integrated into real time. And what it definitely shows is the more time we spend writing shit down and cleaning up our Confluence, the better it performs at that, right? Because it's getting better input. And the way that we structure our data in Confluence helps it, and all of that stuff. And then I am very curious about it as a means of searching. Like Nick and I, one evening, I think it wound up, I can't remember if it was me that stayed up late or Nick that stayed up late. I think it was maybe me that stayed up late, because it was like, oh, this is actually really cool. You know, we were playing in a DB just with like a handful of tables that we had uploaded into a separate GPT. What I'm very curious about is the integration of both DB and Confluence in one GPT that allows us to ask questions that, you know, maybe there's information that's in the database that's not in Confluence. Like we created some minor NPC, right? Like do that all the time where it's, hey, there's 5 delivery quests, and so there's these characters who haven't taken the time to flesh out or anything. They're just sort of one-off characters, and they're in the DB. But it would be cool if we could get to a point where it's easy to identify the ones that aren't in Confluence, maybe help us get them fleshed out into Confluence, or I don't know, be able to search across both when we need specific information. There's so many little use cases with regards to, even like what Nick was saying earlier, is like, hey, when we're looking for, you know, how many of these mobs spawn in game, or what's currently not spawning in game, and maybe we thought it was, right? Like, I think it can work as a good QA tool as well. You know, what items aren't spawning in game? Yeah, Landon, sorry. Landon asked what music's playing. Nick mentioned Sungreet Strand. We've got here, this is actually, I think this is the link. Yeah, so music, that will take you to the playlist. Darius said on the EQ Discord, someone hooked up EQ with a LLM to generate text for NPCs. Yeah, so it's interesting because so far from what I've seen, the various like integrations, the WoW stuff, I'm assuming with EQ stuff, doesn't feel ready for prime time, and it feels a bit weird to let it run wild. But as a design tool, it's pretty awesome. It's pretty helpful. What's up, fat poops? Have a nice weekend, everybody. How's it going? Any big steps? You know what? I'll be honest. This week has been such a cluster. So I've had a couple days where just my schedule's impacted. And I've just not been able to really recover from it. Because we've got a wedding coming up tomorrow. We've got to go out of town for one day for a wedding. I think between wedding kicking off, or wedding happening this weekend, and the garden season kicking off, and like actually getting in the garden and doing a bunch of weeding and shit, like I've not been able to stay caught up this week at all. So whatever, it happens. We've got a wedding next weekend as well, which is actually going to be a couple of days, because we're going to Cologne, which is a bit further drive, because it's Jasmine's stepsister is getting married. So, but I think next week will be a little bit better, and I can get caught up a little bit more. Suggested AI generated list of what answers we should provide to cover our bases for quests to make the mud experience smooth as butter. That's one that we again have to talk about in a bit more detail, because I think I don't know, like whenever I hear the let's generate you know, if you've got one interaction, whether that be a quest or a mud interaction, and we try to generate all the various possible triggers to ensure that people can't fuck it up, I just think it doesn't work in our model long term. Like with NPCs, all of a sudden then you've burned all those triggers for one interaction. I think it starts to build weird habits. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being old and set in my ways. But see ya, Landon. I think we quickly start to get ahead of ourselves. We lose the vibe. We lose. It's like I can ask this thing 15 different ways, or I can ask this thing about this thing in 15 different ways, so that I can't mess. Just read the text and get the. Yeah, just if we write the text the right way, it should be fairly obvious if you're paying attention, if you're not a dumb, like. Hail! Hello! I am just tending to my ostrich. Tell me about your ostrich. Or what ostrich? Or just ostrich. Right? Because we're just using the trigger ostrich. It's the most unique term in the phrase. Blah, 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 blah. Right? Like... How's my finger? Good. Phantom pain? Nope. No real phantom pain or anything. It's good. Thanks for asking, Fat Poops. John said, oh yeah, that'd be super nice. I'm still a bit of a noob concerning AI integration. It's my first time really digging into it, but the possibilities are really cool. One limiting factor right now is context and window size to get all of your Confluence and DB in there at once. I think GPT-4 has 32K. Looks like Claude may have one more. Really? That's weird because, like I said, I've downloaded all of Confluence into a PDF and uploaded it into a GPT without any problems. But I guess that's not a real-time integration. Hey, Bytekeeper. I guess they're different. Though it's seems really odd that it would be more limited in terms of real-time access of data than it would be with uploaded data, because uploaded data seems like something that you're then imposing on them, as opposed to a real, like, integration would just be it's pinging the data whenever it needs it. But I'm a big dumb when it comes to this stuff, so... And Goblin, I wasn't trying to shit on your idea. I always get very skeptical. This is like similar to some of the conversations that were coming up with, you know, Amy in the past. And it's like, how do we make it so people can't mess up trigger words? And the more we go down that path, the more I think we're losing the plot a little bit and potentially creating a bunch of work for something where we could go, you know what? We recognize that this isn't the latest in 2020's technology, but this is how the game works, and we're just going to do that and drive ahead pretty hard without. Like there are areas where we decide just like, hey, that's not a bad idea, but we're not doing it. What's the phrase? The making the perfect. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of good, or don't let the perfect be the enemy of actually getting it done, or what is the phrase? Now I'm going to look this up. Don't let perfect, hey Dark Inside, be the enemy. There's probably going to be 5,000 different versions. Perfect is the enemy of good. Okay. AI summary of this Wikipedia says, perfect is the enemy of good is an aphorism, which means insistence on perfection often prevents implementation of good improvements. The Pareto principle, or the 80-20 rule, explains this numerically. For example, commonly takes 20% of the full time to complete 80% of the task, while to complete the last 20% of the task takes 80% of the effort. Yeah, that is definitely true in trying to ship games. Oh yeah, John, if you're available at some point and you're down, I would love to chat you up on this. You're going to play EQ2 Origins beta this weekend. I am not. I'm going to be at a wedding. Well, I'm going to be at a wedding tomorrow, not this weekend. I'll be back in time on Sunday, hopefully, to go back to work and get some stuff done. Get the newsletter put together. And there's some stuff I want to wrap up in Glass Flats based on conversation I had with Ham. I've had 2 conversations with regards to redoing some Glass Flats Dragon Crusader lore to account for the fact that we're moving Whispering Dunes, etc. So, hey Churro dude, I remember you too, buddy. Thank you for remembering me. What was I doing? Oh. Nothing is what I was doing. Dragon Crusader lore. Though it is dragon lore as well. Tannhauser. That's true. Speaking of dragons, hey dragon. Night Harbor. You guys spoiled me on the last couple of streams. We had I'm getting the VODs posted. They're scheduled right now. We've had some nice like multi-hour playtest streams. And the team's been able to like actually be in chat in voice. It's been really fun. It's been great. It has been pretty fantastic. So now I'm feeling like I'd rather be doing that right now. Goblin said I don't think I don't think nets for everything is a good idea. I'm more talking about some AI assistance and hitting the sweet spot. Same amount of sweet spot that we'd strive for regardless, ideally consistently. Okay, right on. So I'm curious. Yeah, Nicodemus, the kiss method's always been. I mean, my dad was in the army for 20 years before I got in the army, so it's always been a thing in our household. PC data show all. Nope. Merc said, you guys have been spoiling us. Saw were rats. Any thoughts on were form similar to EQA path quests to get infected by various were animals around the world? Cool stat increase, etc. We've talked a little bit about transformations. I think they're even listed on the Trello board that we have posted, so our deconstruction. I think somewhere at the end it probably says transformations in there. And so that's that idea of there being some states, semi-permanent, permanent states that players can get into, whether that be were states or lycanthropy or whatever, vampirism, seraph states, demon possession. There's just a list of potential things that we could put in lichdom, shit like that. So we'll have to decide internally if that's gonna make it, how we want to do it. But I think we're all fairly decent fans of the idea of doing quests or content and arriving in some interesting state or another, whether that be through just normal quests that you find wherever, or if it's based on religion, or a bit of this, a bit of that. Artifact item, cursed item. So it's the usual shit that I think if someone's working on RPG or MMO, you'll typically hear early on. It's like during the phase where it's, oh, we're going to do all this cool stuff. And then more and more reality sets in. And it's like, oh, we just got to get it done. And a lot of the cool stuff falls by the wayside. I think we're going to do a decent job of like trying to honor the fact that there's a bunch of weird shit that we wanted to do early on and not cutting the weird shit. So, right? Because the problem is when something's not a priority, it gets pushed and pushed and pushed, and it's, oh, we'll get back to that later, and the next thing you know, you go live, you don't have it integrated, you maybe tack it on later. It's like housing is the easiest one, like the easiest example, right? And I think somebody on the team recently shared something related to like, I think it was Kevin Jordan or somebody talking about like WoW housing. Just so much of what I've seen on projects, it really like reinforces that idea of if it's not important enough to just sort of bite the bullet and be like, hey, before we consider ourselves live, we just have to integrate this, or hey, sure, before we polish or perfect these other systems, we've got to put in a sloppier version of this just because now we've got it. I think that it gets too easy to winnow away weird shit that maybe makes the experience a little more compelling or unique. It's too easy to winnow away everything down to just the meat and potatoes. So, yeah. So let's see. John, I'm just gonna ignore you, gnome hater. If you were allowed to play, how far could you get? I would assume you'd be able to get to 30s, 40s at this point. I mean, I know there's stuff to kill in those ranges. 60, Nick said. 60. Yeah, I was just trying to think of stuff that I'd implemented in different areas, and I know that would cover you. I'm trying to think of what's the 40 to 60 stuff there is to kill. Hey, Zukin, what's up? Hey, what's up, Joppa? Are these harvesting nodes? It's a mix of harvesting nodes and spawn nodes. So here's a better view. Yeah. Are the spawn nodes done by hand or automated process? They're all, it's all placed by hand. So this is, I mean, naturally this is our most extreme example, right? Night Harbor's crazy, but you can see it's a combination of these little goblins, these green goblins, are the actual spawn points. Oops. Like that'll be a spawn node. Using the same spawning system as we were using for NPCs, whereas that's a guard, right? But then if you look at this guard, you'll see the go-tos are all set up through go-to points, and it's got pauses and blah 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 in there, so. Simon, you're here. Simon is Glass Flats still checked out? And the way that we handle these commands, it's pretty old school, dead simple. Like this guy spawns, and he's just running through this index of commands. Keith has been nice enough. I think it was Keith that ultimately put this in. You know, was nice enough to make it so that we can just grab these commands and move them around, zone, you know, the various zone spawn commands, and we've got drop downs that let us pick what we're putting in there, changes the properties or the fields or whatever. But anyways, it just runs through this sequentially, but then we've got commands to manipulate like where in a sequence it is, so we can have it skip to other areas or check for triggers. So if it's moving through and there's the appropriate conditions in place, then it can jump to a different point in the index and then loop within there or jump back or whatever. It's just keeping it really, really simple and easy enough for a caveman like me to use instead of like actually going in and scripting a bunch of shit. Just the concern with like a script-based system is all of a sudden you start having, well, it's a hell of a lot easier to look at all of this. You know, if we come in and we're looking at like zone spawn commands, and we go into a place like Night Harbor, Mania Show All, Night Harbor. If I spell it right, I can find it. Harbor. Yeah, so you can see in here where we've got like these indices are just, it's represented over here in a nice, easy to use way, but it's just saved into the DB and the same way we do anything else. So the constraints help keep us in check a little bit with regards to like what we're trying to do. What I found with like script-based systems, even ones using like visual scripting tools like the old Kismet or Blueprints now or whatever, is it just gets so easy for things to be all over the place, right? In terms of how people, you know, how people approach it. You know, are you getting your, if you're doing it in that manner, are you getting scripts peer reviewed, and do you have sort of coding standards that you're using within them? And then what are you using to search through all the various scripts? Is it easy to sort of query and like pull all of those together in a way where it's easy to run through them? Whereas with everything in a database, right? Like even with a super simple filter like I'm using here, not even querying it, super simple filter, it's not hard to find certain data, right? Like, and the constraints make that even easier, right? Because there's logical constraints that we have in mind before we even step into the database to try to find certain information, right? Because we know our system can't do everything. So anyway, that's the thought there. And the other thing is, it's just a little bit easier to ramp a wider variety of designers up on the tools in a relational DB, especially if we, have some little more interfacing going on. Though I will say that there are things like creating NPCs or abilities or items. I think I'm speaking for a few of us when I say that it's a lot easier just to get in and have like multiple just windows with multiple tables open and copy and paste and move shit around than it is to try to make a tool that actually feels super intuitive to do this stuff like in one interface or whatever. So yeah. Drokoth, thank you for the follow. So anyways, that's my story. If the zone is checked in, like Simon just said, then I'll run over and do that because it's visual and for me, there's some stuff I want to do in there that is a little bit busy work that may help Simon out a little bit. And then I can come back and do this. The thing I was just going to do in here was, I think when we were talking about the drop rate on the quest items that scouts have, I'm fairly certain, like I looked and it looks like the scout is on the broader spawn table. So we've got like an encounter table or NPC spawn group, we call them. But like our encounter table, it's got it at like 5% with a bunch of other stuff. So yeah, if you're not killing the other random trash in here, then the scout doesn't spawn. Which I've thought for a while that for something like the scout, I think it'd be better to look at where it's spawning. If it's spawning in this volume and maybe in this volume, just create 2 new volumes that have it in there specifically, and then we can more specifically tune its drop rate, overall drop rate based off of its now cleaner spawn percentage and then spawn timer. Which again, that's talking about ChatGPT. I suck with probability. I very much kind of like freehand, like, finger in the air, 30%. But what's kind of fun is just typing in like, hey, if we've got a respawn rate of this and a spawn probability of that and a drop rate of the other thing, what percentages make it so that we're pretty clear to do the average drop of 4 items in an hour, blah blah blah, that kind of thing. So smarter people than me can maybe just do that in their head, but I went to high school in Dothan, Alabama, and never stayed in college for more than a semester. So I appreciate the use of AI to help me make sure your shit is a little more consistent. Cool, Nicodemus. I'll definitely check it out. I know Nick's been meaning to make some videos on that as well. I'm very curious to see what you guys are doing there. Free Juice, thank you for the follow. It says, just heard about this project and have been watching as much stuff on YouTube as I can. What an exciting project. Hope you can try it out soon. Awesome, man. Yeah, well, if you want to watch as much stuff as possible, I think we've got like 550 videos up. And so if they're on an average of 2 hours, though I think the average would probably come out more to be like, let's just say 2 hours. It's 1,000 hours of video to watch, and then you'll be caught up. So John says, if an Ashira scout carrying a necklace left the ruins traveling at 3 kilometers an hour, and a new player left the west gate traveling at 4 kilometers. What the fuck is a kilometer? Where would they meet, and what is the chance of the Ashira having loot? Ollie said 7%. And that is why he gets paid the big bucks. Protest Red said, I think a kilometer is European, or maybe a European person. I think so too. It sounds pretty shady to me. I prefer freedom units. And my wife sighs in the other room because she knows it's true. Base 10 bullshit. Yeah, she's like, what? It makes perfect sense. It's all just tens. I'm like, tens of what though? Like, what does that even mean? It's tens. It doesn't make any more sense just because you guys broke it into base 10. It's easier to do math.
Who's gonna keep track of the inches? How many inches are a foot? How many foot are what would a yard?
Sean's just upset he can't do base 10 on his fingers now. Damn, John. Ableist. Oh, I can use that now. 9.33 for the win. That is hilarious. All right, so you said the zone's checked in, Simon? When did you check it in? Because I pulled right before... Oh, May 1st? Alright, great. Your wife sounded like a robot coming through the mic. Well, makes sense. He really loves AI. Yeah. So, Simon, I'm going to turn this around the other way because we've got a facing. This may be a dumb question. Do you foresee Eminem having something similar to Epic Quest from EQ? Free Juice asked. Yeah. And we may even have some like epic, non-epic quests. My man Nicodemus, as part of his like early work to work through quests and eventually be a part of the team, wrote an epic murder mystery quest. One of these days we'll implement it. It is ridiculously cool. Yeah. It uses our mud interaction system, right? Environmental interaction. Like you're inspecting the I don't want to reveal too much because you'll eventually do this quest. Or one extremely similar to it. But, oh, the way he designed it, DeChunk, is multiple people could have done it. And then there are multiple ways to end it depending on who you think is the one who done it. It's really neat. It was a really neat submission. It was very much an example of like, no, every quest absolutely cannot be this way. This is insane. Like, deliver the muffin, right? Like, start with muffin delivery. Oh no. All right, let me. Simon, I'm turning this guy around. Because it would have been flying in the opposite. It would have been flying facing the opposite direction. Even though it is cool to see the front, It was not flying backwards. Change as you wish, Papa. Dude, Simon is one of the funniest dudes I've talked to on voice from the team. I should have a sticky note somewhere here on my monitor or something that's like, if I'm ever having a bad day, I should just hop into a voice chat with Simon. Simon's like, hey, what's up, Sean? How you doing, pal? Like, boom, instant joy. Instant joy. I'm not bullshitting. I'm not busting balls. Nothing. Like, legit. Which axes is this? Okay. We may have to slide it around a little bit. Simon is always very chill. Simon is the avatar of chill. If we ever put the plane of chill in, Simon will be there as the avatar. I'm excited to get the update put together and sent to you guys. People that are on the mailing list but not in Discord. Is there anybody in here that's on the mailing list but not in Discord? We have 7,300 people in Discord, I think Nick said. Which is nice. That's grown. If we've got folks on the mailing list that aren't in Discord, that's a nice sign as well. But it looks like, I don't think nobody's responding that you're on the mailing list but not in Discord, so maybe it's not the case. Anyways, MailChimp was all goofed up. And we haven't been able to, it's not that I mean, Ollie figured it out in like an hour once he got in and decided to figure it out, but we never sent the early access newsletter to the mailing list, which is kind of a big one. But that's how we roll. Sometimes we're a little loosey-goosey. Gotta sync this guy a little bit. Gotta rearrange the crystals now that we got this guy in here. Pepe Silva? Sylvia, sorry. Pepe Sylvia. I was trying to explain that to Hamad the other day. I'm gonna find the clip for him because he'd seen the meme. But he didn't realize it. Appreciate sound effects. Yeah. One of these days I'm gonna get with Robert. We'll get some more sound effects in. Oh my god, my eyes. Protest the Bread says, I think it's so cool how this project's grown over time. It's really cool that y'all are so open with development. It's great passive marketing. It is. That's all part of our plan. But I appreciate you saying that. I mean, you know, we would be doing it this way even if it wasn't great passive marketing. But it is pretty decent passive marketing. One day, if all of this works, I'll do a GDC talk on passive marketing. Passive aggressive marketing is actually what we're shooting for. Hey, Pattis. That should be the name of your GDC talk. Ollie, if I ever find myself in a situation or position to give a GDC talk, it's absolutely going to have a worse name than that. You could sell future marketing plans on how you made your game successful through passive marketing. Merked. It would be a very short brochure. Though I do think I mean, I think there's some value to reiterating what we're doing, but I feel like anytime we're talking about stuff like this, there's a fair bit of hubris, right? Because until a company ships a game and it is commercially successful, anything I'm saying, like everything I'm saying right now on this stream and previous streams is it's bullshit until proven otherwise, right? Like I'm talking about some stuff. I'm doing some stuff. I'm providing a point of view based off of my limited experience in the industry, right? Like I've been in the games industry since 2000, 2001. But it's not like I've worked at every company. I've worked at a very limited number of companies. I've got friends in the industry that I can compare notes with, but again, that's anecdotal experience based off another limited set of companies. But I'm more than happy to share my perspective, see a free juice, based on that, very finite amount of experience. And so in my experience, and I'm not just saying that because it's our game, we're working on it. In my experience, this project and this team the project's going as good as anything I've worked on. And the team is performing, especially for being, part-time passion project team. The team is performing extremely on par with what I would expect from an experienced development team. Like I'm not sitting here going, oh shit, can we really pull this off, guys? I don't know, this feels so weird. This feels unlike anything I've seen before. Oh my god, how are we going to do this? It's crazy. It just feels like game development. So we have to make a commercially successful product for me to actually be able to say, oh shit, this worked. You should try out doing it the way we did it. But in the meantime, I will say there's a lot that I feel like is working and people could probably learn from. But a lot of it honestly just comes down to like doing the work and not being bullshit. And then when people are like, oh, when I've seen firsthand enough, like we've got to be more authentic. Like within companies, it's like, how do we become more authentic? And then people within the company will be like, what if we were just like authentic and shit? And people are like, yeah, well, yeah, I don't know if we want to go that far. Can we be authentic-ish? Can we look authentic is what the companies are asking. How do we present ourselves as being like ourselves without actually being ourselves? Because, well, we don't want to incur too much risk by being ourselves. Ollie said YouTube short. Sean goes, I spoke to NVIDIA CEO last week and I asked him how much do you work? And he said, it's not about how much, but how smart you work. And so I passively aggressively marketed that and made my first billion. Work smarter, not harder, guys. I had a drill sergeant that said that all the time, though, but he was a very smart guy. Privates, you gotta work. Listen to Drill Sergeant Wilson, privates. You gotta work smarter, not harder. Now do push-ups. I'm like, is the smart move here to not do them? Is that what he's saying? Then I would be like, smoke, Drill Sergeant, can't do any more push-ups. Do flutter kicks. Like, I feel like I'm being tested here. I feel like he's telling me to do the push-ups, but he wants me to not do the push-ups. Work your privates smarter, not harder. Hey. Watch out. Pineapple. Nick says, I love when Sean LARPs as a random executive guy. Well, good thing. I've been doing that for the last 3 years. I like that, Nicodemus. Nicodemus said, if you've got to be damned, it's better to be damned for who you really are. No regrets, sir. Yeah, it's weird. I mean, one of the things I was really dealing with when I was leaving the last team and looking at like what I wanted to do next, and then this guy started spinning up, was just like, what movie is that from where he's like, I just want to be me. I just want to dance. Like, so I talked to Ollie and Nick when we were starting the project. I was like, guys, I just want to dance. They're like, all right, you can do that. It's like, cool. Just want to be me. What does that mean? You just want to be you? You know, sometimes say some really weird shit. Definitely don't want to be very professional. Footloose. Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting finding out some of the people that actually watch the VODs or watch the videos kind of on the DL. It's been kind of cool. Like, you know, hearing from some people at, oh, let me name drop a little bit, the humble brag. You know, having people from Riot or Blizzard reach out and humble brag. You know, but it's like, hey, enjoy following the project, watch some of the VODs, blah, blah, blah. And I would love to talk more to some folks and keep it really on the DL and be like, you know, what do you really think? Would you love to relax a little and be a little more open with your development? Would you like to stream and drop F-bombs so the kids know you're for real? Not seen Footloose in probably 25 years. That's a very fair point, Justin. I'm very curious if it holds up. I'm gonna have to rework all of these doodads here. Before I do that, I should probably make sure that we're pretty happy with Simon. I saw you put in these black spikes. They're interesting. They're interesting. I hadn't really accounted for them in the lore of like the justification of the crystals, but they're neat looking. So I think we can. What I'll do is probably make them, because of the whole justification for the crystals. Probably gonna move them and then put some crystals with them. Because essentially anywhere that there's citadel matter, then there's crystals. Retconning already? You want a refund? I will refund you the money you've given us. How's that for customer service? Last I checked, I had 2 degrees of separation from Kevin Bacon. Oh, interesting. Do tell, John. This zone's kind of like, this stuff's kind of funky looking with the lighting turned off. So, Simon, I would say I look at them as less debris, because to me they wouldn't make sense as debris, right? Because they're just all kind of sticking up nicely, whereas debris would just be scattershot. But as sort of as a reaction, which the crystals are as well, spoiler, as a reaction, I can see them growing and doing this. So that's how I'm going to work with them. I'm going to treat them like that. So they're not actual debris, they're pieces of debris that's grown. That makes sense. Crystal Caves dungeon confirmed. Okay. You heard it here first. John said, did some background acting when I was younger. Nothing serious, but one of the guys was in a movie with Alec Baldwin, who was in a movie with Bacon. Guess that makes 3. I think I would have to trace. I get a benefit of having been friends with Jamie Thomas when I was a kid. And so from him in the skateboard scene to people like Jason Lee, who then crosses over into movies and TV, I think that helps me with some of the degrees there. Oh, I once had a fairly inappropriate encounter. Well, it's inappropriate. I shouldn't say it on the internet. Gosh. I once had... Don't look at me crazy, Jasmine. You've heard this story. I once had Dennis Quaid's wife and her friend buy me drinks at a bar / restaurant one evening. So Dennis Quaid's wife to Dennis Quaid to whomever, and like Bacon, I guess, is the game. So yeah, but that's still a couple degrees. Was he in My Name is Earl, Jason Lee? Yeah, he was the dude from My Name is Earl. Was he at your skate park? The Zero team came by, but the story with Jamie was we both lived in Dothan, Alabama. He went to the nicer school across town. He went to Northview High School. And I went to Dothan High School. But I took electronics class in Votech 1 year. And he was in there as well. Mr. Ananopoulos' electronics class. And one of the things... So I met him through there and then realized, like... Hey, there are these cool, like, north side skateboard guys that I could hang out with, because I skateboarded, but I wasn't very cool at all. I was pretty lame. I was very much like a heavy metal skateboarder. Iron Maiden 3/4 sleeve t-shirts and tight jeans and shit. So I became friends with Jamie because we were in electronics class together. Started talking, hung out outside of school, started skateboarding together, and then I filmed a lot of his first sponsor me video. We would run around and I just started helping him film. So I filmed a lot of the video that he sent to like Spitfire, who was it? Spitfire Tracker Reel? I'm trying to remember. I have a wallet somewhere in storage from when I was a kid that has stickers on it from his first like sponsor me flow box that he got. So that's my claim to fame right there. But I helped him film and edit his first sponsor me video. Which, you know, if you're into skateboarding and you know Jamie, then that's, I guess, like, oh, that's cool. If you don't know Jamie, then you really don't give a shit. So you're like, how is this story relevant to video games? Yep, leap of faith. Leap of faith. That was a hell of a gap. So that was actually my backup plan when I moved out to California to join Variant / Sony Online. My backup plan was, if they weren't hiring and they didn't need me, if I didn't get picked up, then I would probably hit up my friends Chad and Jamie. But Chad was helping them run Black Box, which was like Zero skateboards and Fallen footwear and some other stuff at the time. I was just gonna hit them up to see if I could work in the warehouse. Patty said the only one I might say is crazier is the 25 set Jaws did a melon grab down. Yeah, Jaws is, I mean, well, he's like an evolution of that style of skating, right? Like he was, I mean, I haven't followed skateboarding forever, so I assume he's still around, but he's very much like I mean, you see that with everything, right? Like you see that in every industry, everywhere. There's like the first gen, and then the like younger kids that come on behind you are even better and crazier because they've been able to learn from that first gen and stuff like that. So what was that big skate punk band, No Effects? I remember having a recording of like No Effects. It's like No Effects and Green Day. I think I had more just actual cassettes from No Effects, like ribbed and stuff like that back in the day. Oh, I was thinking of Green Day. It's like back before they were super lame. I had a recording of like a Green Day tape, and it was like super fun. He really is. I think his knees are shot now, so it doesn't go quite as hard. Yeah, I mean, people don't realize, I think Jamie's had 3 or 4 or 5 knee surgeries. It's just ridiculously damaging. Enoch says, Rodney Mullen was one of my favorites back in the day. Me too. I really liked him. I remember when I first started skateboarding, it was like that sort of freestyle, flatland, pogoing, weird, standing on the side of your board shit, which Andy Anderson has done fantastically. Like he's kept that alive, which is really cool. And his name is on like Instagram, it's like Authentic Andy Anderson, which is true. That dude is legitimately doing his own thing. But anyway, I met and got to skate with Rodney Mullen in Vero Beach, Florida at a skate contest we went down to when we had to skate park. We took our little team down there. It's like Vero Beach? I think it was Vero Beach, Florida. And watching him skate is insane in person. Like just the way he's so calculated and will like line his board up and then like pick it up and move a little bit and then line it up again and then be like, and just like a machine. Incredible. Incredible. Just really calculated. Listening to Rondi talks, always fun. He's a freaking wizard. Yeah, he's a special kind of guy. Who said what? Enoch asked, Jamie skate for zero? Yeah, Jamie started zero. Jamie started zero when he was skating with Toy Machine. And he basically, the distributor of Toy Machine was a company called Tumyeto. And he asked if he could do like a t-shirt type company or something. He wanted to do his own brand. But he's always been like this. Like when he was a kid, he had like a little shorts company that he was doing, and just very entrepreneurial dude, right? Like super alpha, very entrepreneurial, interesting guy. Very good at doing well for himself. I'll say it like that, just to be polite. Like Jamie's good at making sure that Jamie is taken care of. And so what he did there, if I understand the story correctly, it's secondhand from Chad, not from Jamie, but he had set it up so that he could start that brand and then retain ownership of it, or essentially make it easier for him to take if he were to ever leave their company. And so that's how Zero got started. I don't know if that's 100% accurate or the totality of the story, or if there's some legal wrangling or whatever, but it's my understanding he started Zero while he was with Toy Machine skating for Tumyeto, and then split that off and started Zero Skateboards, and eventually did Black Box, which is his own distributorship. So I always really admired what skateboarding did with branding. They're just really great at branding. It's just seasonal branding, seasonal merch, right? Like board runs where it'll be like one theme, and then it'll be, every rider's got like some take on it. It'll be like, oh, it's, whatever. We're ripping off soda commercials, or it's, weird ghost graphics, and then everybody will have a take on it, and then their logo will reflect it and all this shit, right? So you'll see it and you'll know, okay, that's whatever, that's Zero, or that's Toy Machine, or that's Anti-Hero, or Creature, or whatever. You'll notice the logo, but then there'll be different takes on the logo, and there'll be a whole new run of graphics for that like season, that quarter, and then the next season there'll be a whole new run of graphics, right? Because they're always trying to sell new t-shirts, new wheels, even if you don't need them, but it's got a new graphic on it or whatever, or some new bullshit technology, but mostly like the graphics, new decks constantly, stickers, tons of stickers. And so that's really smart. And so that's something that that the other industries, I don't think, learn enough from, right? And I was always like, why aren't game companies doing this? And when I was hanging out with Chad when I lived in California, I was like, man, like games are coming up. Games are going to be huge at some point, and I wouldn't be shocked if they become like nerd culture becomes a little more appealing to people, and it becomes kind of like a more and more of a thing that people are into. But if that happens, really got to step up with like our merch game and our branding game. We always talked about it, and he was kind of like, okay, because again, it's outside of games. A lot of times people are like, games, whatever, nerds. But yeah, it was funny. hanging out with them at the X Games in Oslo a few years ago. Probably more than a few now, 5 years ago or whatever. And all the skate, like the young skate kids, when they weren't skating in the X Games, they were backstage playing Fortnite on the console, like PlayStation. And I was like, you guys realize how much money that made in the like last 6 months each month? It's made like $250 million a month. They're just like, get out of here. That's insane. It's like, yep. Games, man. Hey, C-Jack. Back when your parents owned a skate park, did the other kids suck up to you because you're the kid whose parents owned a skate park? Well, I mean, they flowed the cash for it. I didn't have any cash. I was coming out of the army. I had no cash. But basically, they flowed the cash for it. But we, like, and then eventually a guy from Chicago that had moved into our town. I was like, oh, you're from Chicago? Oh my God, that's so cool. You're from Chicago. He had made ramps for like bikes, but he knew a fair bit about like ramp construction. So I built, with assistance, but I designed and built most of the ramps in the park. And then I was 20 something. I'd just gotten out of the army. So that's why I say it's like our skate park. I didn't have any cash. Parents flowed the cash. And then, me and Chad and my dad we were the ones that were always there, like working and dealing with the kids and shit like that. Kids are horrible. It just wound up becoming a super cheap daycare for people who didn't care enough about their kids to like pick them up at night. And so anyway, the dude helped us build like some interesting stuff. We had like a quarter bowl, so it was like 8 foot. It was 6 foot quarter pipe that had like, it was 8 foot and then an 8 foot transition corner bowl into another 8 foot like half pipe out. So it's fun because you could come up and just like grind around that corner and then come back in and still go over one of the fun boxes and stuff. Yeah, and so it was but yeah, there was absolutely like, it's like anything. People just, the whole missing finger thing's really bad for shortcuts sometimes. It's like anything, man. Like, yeah, kids that come in and kiss up and stuff. And then we had like skateboard politics, right? Especially, so the story with my friend, or used to be my friend at the time, I haven't talked to him in years now, but my friend Chad, the guy that eventually helped Jamie build those companies, was he worked there as well, and he was my roommate. And so we lived together. My girlfriend Chad and I lived in a house near a skate park that my parents owned, because they had bought a new house in a small town outside of Dothan. And this is Dothan, Alabama, right? So when we talk about owning houses, I think the house we lived in was like 40 grand or something. It's not like ball and but still, it's pretty cool. It was a house. It was made of bricks. It was the house I spent my teenage years in, and it was near the skate park. I eventually had to fire him. So here's this guy that's like supposed to be my best friend, and we've got this business we're working on together, and we're young entrepreneurs trying to figure it out. And I had to fire him and kick him out at the same time. I was like, and he's this guy that's known for brawling, like just a brawler. Like out Mike V, I think. Yeah, and so I just had to let him know, like, sorry, dude, you got to go. So that was an interesting, formative learning kind of experience. Because he's just, at the time, I'm sure he's much better, because he eventually, what was going on was the dude was very much a young guy. We were young, very dumb, very aggro, very like, you know, I haven't grown out. I haven't matured in that way at all. Like, still very anti-authoritarian, blah, blah, blah. Don't like to be told what to do. So the problem is, when you're really immersed in like skateboard culture, you're like, oh man, skateboarders are all about no rules, right? Young, dumb, and full of rum. Exactly. And so the problem was, that's maybe the case where it's like, oh, we don't care if there's a no skateboarding sign or whatever, but the rules that we establish for us have to, you know, we have to maintain those, right? Like maybe we don't like the rules, but we have to have a code. And so there's definitely some shit that kind of like went down, whereas eventually like, hey man, we can pull this with others, but we don't do this to each other, right? Like, and also at the time, just super shitty roommate, never cleaned up. Dishes always in the sink. Bummer. Anyway, he got this boot. He left. He wound up leaving town eventually. And then, you know, like half the skateboard kids were like, oh, I like Chad because he's fun. You guys suck. But he eventually moved to a different city and then had roommates that were similar to, well, they were like skateboard dudes. But this time the house was in his name. Rooney, are you eating a treat ball right here while I'm streaming, buddy? That's loud. You know that, right? No, you can keep doing it though because you're super cute. Anyway. Yeah, so when people started like screwing up the house that he was leasing and you know, they worked for him at this place and all this other stuff. Then all of a sudden, like, he started learning that that's not cool. Megafunk. That is our soundtrack. The link is right there in chat. You hear that noise in the background? That's my dog playing with like a... It looks like a toilet roll. It is a toilet roll. Toilet paper roll thing with treats in it with the ends clamped shut that my wife gave him so he could come in here and make noise. But he's adorable, so we'll let him. What do we do here?